When you think about Ireland, you either think about the lush green landscapes, alcohol, leprechauns, or, well, Derry Girls. Too bad the realities of living there are much different. That pot of gold at the end of a rainbow might sound like a distant dream to you once you hear about the dark sides of living in Ireland. First and foremost is the issue of low wages. While some professionals in Ireland get pretty decent salaries, the truth is that a majority are paid extremely average rates. Just in 2018, more than 370,000 workers were categorized as low paid. This means 1 out of every 5 workers in the country. That's terrible. And even though the level of income in Ireland is generally greater than in the UK, people in the workforce still receive far less for their money due to the high cost of living. Currently, Ireland has one of the largest percentages of low-paid workers in the EU. And no, this can't be linked to the pandemic because it's been the norm for the last 2 decades. The median hourly wage in 2018 was set at €11.86. So according to this standard, anyone making less than that is low paid. Naturally, not everyone in Ireland receives a bad salary. Pharmacists earn the highest salaries on the island, which is around €62,970, followed by secondary school teachers at €56,736, accountants at around €52,117, and software engineers at about €51,915. But Ireland might not be the best place to go if you work in a lower-paying sector like manufacturing, public health, or transportation. And at this point, I'd like to raise another issue linked to income: housing. Ireland has always been bogged down by housing problems. Given the below-average homes and neighborhoods, you'll be lucky to find something good for the money. High rental and purchase costs are all the more upsetting because at this point, the housing situation is considered a crisis. It can be very challenging to find decent rental properties on a typical salary. Finding a decent €1,500 per month apartment can take weeks or even months. Even more costly are the purchase costs. If you want to buy a home or an apartment in a city, you should budget at least €150,000 for a 1-bedroom space. Of course, you might go for a mortgage with, say, a 30-year maturity, but that would bring up the subject of income again. It might not be viable, given that 1 in 4 jobs in the country have yearly incomes of under €23,000. If you're looking to relocate, you must know about the state of the country's healthcare system. Over the past few years, things have significantly deteriorated, with many people attributing the industry's terrible situation to privatization. This means that you should expect extremely long wait times on a regular basis. In fact, patients must wait 6 to 8 hours before receiving care, and a doctor might not even be available at that time. Plus, basic examinations and consultations start at a minimum cost of €50. Even if you have private health insurance, the cost is the same. A family will still be required to pay the €50 consultation cost, even if they pay more than €3,000 a year for health insurance. Now, that's crazy, right? And just like medical treatment, dental care is in a bad state and isn't even insured. Honestly, you might want to reconsider moving to Ireland and look at countries like Belgium, Sweden, Germany, and the Netherlands instead, where 60 to 80% of medical expenses are covered. Now, let's talk about education. Private education is quite expensive, so if you can't get into a public school because of the competition, you'll have to pay a high price for the privilege of even attending a school. But there are many other factors to consider besides price. The Irish educational system isn't great, and critics argue that it makes students learn less effectively than they could. Students are essentially spoon-fed the entire time, and there are few opportunities for intellectual challenge or stimulation. But that's just until you go to college. The more demanding style of education comes as quick a shock to pupils when they do manage to get admitted to a university. Most have a very tough time adapting, and some even drop out. In general, Irish universities are more expensive than those in other parts of Europe. Even with the incentives of scholarships offered, international students, and even some locals, still have huge financial strain paying for higher education. Everyone knows about the efficient transport system in the UK. Over on this side though, forget it. The sheer slowness of the intercity trams, the high fares, and the lack of options in some areas are a few issues that mark Ireland's transportation sector. Almost all of the big cities worldwide have reasonably nice public transportation alternatives, including free Wi-Fi, fast connections, and cheaper fares, right? Well, not here, no. What's more, suburban locations are unluckier than urban folks. They barely get anything. But you know what you will get in Ireland? Bipolar weather. It's one frequent criticism leveled against the island country. The good part is that it doesn't rain as much here as it does in many regions of the UK. Even if it does rain a lot, the overall weather remains pleasant on most days. It's the unpredictable nature of the weather that's the biggest drawback. While you're relaxing on the beach in the midday sun, you could be running for cover the next minute as the rain starts to pour down. And just in a few minutes, the sun will come up again, causing the temperature to climb once again. Oh, and how can we not mention the trash problem? Unfortunately, Ireland has earned a bad reputation as one of Europe's dirtiest countries. Even though things have changed in recent years, many cities, including Dublin, still struggle to shed this bad image off their books. In fact, Dublin is also referred to as the dirty old town. The few trash cans that are dispersed across the city are nearly constantly overflowing, and miles of roadways are littered, so don't get too shocked. Many areas of the city always seem a little dirty and run down, even without cigarette butts, chewing gum, and litter on the streets. Also, the majority of the paving is uneven and patchy, especially in the city center, where the tram development has caused mayhem for years. Speaking of mayhem, crime is an issue in many of the bigger cities. Teenage hoodlums prowl the streets in packs, intimidating bystanders, destroying and vandalizing property, and robbing innocent people. Watch out, because there are increasingly brutal assaults and stabbings that occur for no apparent cause. Homicides have increased by 30% from 2022 to 2023, along with theft and other offenses that are also seeing a rise of a staggering 41%. In a survey conducted in 2023, almost 6 out of 10 people in Ireland believed that corruption is rampant in the country, and 1 out of every 6th person said it has a direct impact on their everyday lives. According to the recent European Commission research, a small majority of Irish voters believe political parties often give and accept bribes and abuse their positions of power for personal gain. Also, it appears that local law enforcement agencies are ineffective and incapable in dealing with these criminal forces. Few people are ready to take action against the gangs, despite the fact that they're publicly seen messing with people all the time. Anyway, you might want to lower your standards a bit more, because in terms of consumer alternatives, Ireland typically falls behind the UK and other European countries. Customer service is also generally lacking in most sectors, probably because of the lack of competition. You see, Ireland is still widely regarded as a developing nation, so a lot of the people you'll meet might be natives who have never traveled outside of their country of birth. If you don't live in a major city, you're unlikely to encounter even a small immigration population. Ireland also lacks a huge cosmopolitan city center, like that of London or New York. Its cities lack the level of sophistication and cultural innovation that you would expect in Europe. So if you're young, socially active, and interested in fashion, society, and the arts, Ireland will probably be a letdown. And despite that, it's a super popular travel destination because of its natural beauty, which brings with it the issue of overcrowding and over-tourism. Popular tourist destinations like the Cliffs of Moher, the Guinness Storehouse, and the Blarney Stone can be flooding with visitors during peak travel seasons. Now, speaking of tourists, you might find driving in Ireland to be difficult, especially if you're used to driving on the right side of the road. Driving on the left side is the norm in Ireland, which can be confusing and even dangerous for inexperienced drivers. Plus, many of Ireland's roads are winding and narrow, which makes them challenging to travel, particularly in rural areas. Oh, and forget about renting a car, because those insurance premiums can rack up before you know it. Now, if you're coming in to visit, know that while English is widely spoken throughout Ireland, you still might run into language barriers because of local slang and strong regional accents. In some areas of the country, especially in the Gaeltacht regions, Irish Gaelic is still used as a language. Signage and information may be in Irish Gaelic, which can be pretty confusing for tourists, even if the majority of locals in these places do speak English. And you already know how much everyone drinks here, right? According to a survey, at least 44% of Irish adults over the age of 18 drank alcohol once per week. But wait, the average Irish person consumes 10 liters of booze annually. So it could be a challenge if you don't like alcohol or have an alcohol problem. And good luck having to deal with people who are hardly sober. Living in Ireland means being cut off from the rest of mainland Europe and even Great Britain. If you're from the US or any other bustling city, on top of everything else, island loneliness might be difficult to deal with. But despite all the issues, this country needs to be on everyone's bucket list for a once-in-a-lifetime kind of trip. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on living in Ireland, and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. See ya!